What's going on, everyone? This is Uchain Joku. Welcome to Sneaker Principle Podcast. Um, so this is interesting. I have to start by saying I'm a little nervous right now because this is the first time I've done anything like this outside of running Zoom calls for my students, for my school community. So to be here right now and be in the space of, welcoming folks from different platforms, whether it's LinkedIn or YouTube or Twitter, so I'm very humbled right now. And so if I stutter or I behave in a manner that seems kind of weird, is because this is very, very different for me. But however, I want to make sure it's very clear that this is for those of you who've been in great support of me over the past week, 2 weeks now, with my post that I did about resigning, and the over 100,000 readers of that post, and then all the comments, over 500 comments, and people have been sending me messages in my inbox, just wishing me well and asking me a lot of questions. And this is inspired by those questions. So right now I see someone really, an amazing human being. One of my former students, Aislinn, is on here. Hey, how you doing? And I'm doing great. I'm so great. And you are a teacher now. Yeah, so this is very awesome. So what I want to do is, I don't know how many people are going to show up as people come in. I'm opening myself to just questions about how I can be supportive to thoughts or questions you have in your mind about teaching, leading in this space of education. And again, this is to honor all of you who've been asking me a lot of questions. I've been trying my best to respond in the inboxes and in the comments, but I said, you know what? I have this platform. Let me use it for that purpose. So with that being said, let me see if I can switch the screens here. Here we go. But that's not going to work. It's like let me do this. Let me go back. So yeah. So again, the tech, I'm trying to figure this out. But one thing I can do, if you do come on to the Zoom link, and I'm going to just make sure I have it on here for those of you who are watching. If you come into the Zoom link, you will, and it's right here, 885-2679-9810. If you want to be able to speak to me directly, ask me questions, I am definitely here for that. But at the same time, if you just want to put a question in the chat, either YouTube, LinkedIn, or Twitter, I should be able to see it here on my end. And if I don't, I do apologize. But if you do want to jump on to Zoom, you can. You can put questions in the chat, or speak to me directly. That'd be greatly appreciated. But with that being said, I do have somebody here. So let me start off with Aislinn. How are you doing? I'm doing very, very, very good. And guys, I would wish I could project this, but there's some weirdness happening with the Zoom if I use my system to project it. But you can definitely hear her. So tell me, how is everything going? This is going to be your first year teaching, full time? So you're a veteran. 4 years, you're a vet now. So how's this 4 years been for you? Okay. So what are you teaching? What subjects are you teaching? Okay. It is hard work. Those of you who know, I was a special ed teacher. That's what my license was coming into teaching, and I have in my career been around, even supervising pre-K all the way through 12. So I've seen the stages of of needs and supports for students, and it's hard work. People, I'm sure people tell you, hey, you're a teacher, you're so lucky, you have the summers off, and you have a short work day, you only work 6.5 hours, and you're like, you don't know the half of it. So yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to say hello to Matt. Matt, how are you doing? If you want to turn your camera on and speak to me, you can, or you could, if you want to put something in the chat, you can as well. But thank you so much for being here, Matt. Again, I was saying to everyone, this is an open conversation. I'm taking questions, everything from, from the teacher side to the school leadership side. Anything I can do to. Hey, Matt, how you doing? And so, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So again, any questions, please. I have nothing prepared other than answering questions. So let's go. Can you be more specific? I recommend as far as trajectory, as far as how to get there, or what you do when you're there. Okay, so first thing, let's start. Okay, you said how to get there. My first advice I say to anyone if who's thinking about school leadership is I always ask them that question: is this what you really want? Because there's this perception that as a school leader, it's like, oh, you're so lucky. You don't have to be in the classroom anymore. You don't know what we're going through. But the reality is, going into leadership, and it also depends what kind of leadership. Are we talking about principal? Are we talking about assistant principals? Are we talking about being a dean, being a teacher leader? Teacher leaders are some of the most ignored leaders in our building. Those teachers who are running teams, who are supporting, who are mentoring, like all those facets. But now, if we're talking about going straight into administration, first of all, you have to ask your question. First question is this what you really want? Number two, do you know what it really entails? A lot of people also look at the paycheck and say, oh, my goodness, APs make this kind of money, principals make this kind of money, without really understanding the time commitment. I remember I had a superintendent who said to me, hey, a lot of people, no, actually, it was a principal who said this to me, then I had a superintendent say this to me as well. And this principal, who was my mentor principal, told me, if you take my salary and actually divide it by the number of hours per week, even in a day, the 10-hour days, the 12-hour days, the weekends, the calls that come in the middle of the night that I have to pick up, or the meetings I have to go to, when you average that number out, what you find out is that I make as much as teachers do, in some cases less, because I have to be on 24 hours a day. So a lot of people don't expect that. They think I become an administrator and that's it. And 1 second, I was just told that the questions from the questions are not being heard by viewers. Just give me 1 quick second here. Let me just make sure that I'm doing this right. Magic Station. Aislinn, can you do me a favor? Can you say something? Hello? Okay. So, can, no, they're saying they can't hear either of you. Again, this is the first time I've done this format before, using streaming from Zoom into the software that I use. So, question now is, let me see something real quick. It might be that. Let me see. No. Hey, listen, you're better than me. So right now, this is being okay. So I know that. So if anyone is listening to on YouTube, let me know if you can hear. And in the meantime, Sherry White, welcome. I'm trying to figure out a little technical issue here. Still not hearing them. Okay, so I'm going to try one more thing here. If not, I might have to repeat the question for the audience when asked. And and Ms. White, you're very, very welcome. Ms. White says, "Hi, thank you for your time." No, this is definitely my pleasure and honor to do this. Um, Someone's trying one more thing here with my audio, just to make sure that I am not. Blackness Design with the channel. Okay, so for whatever reason, no one from okay, the Zoom audio is not going out. So, but it's okay. I can still, those of you on Zoom, I can still repeat the questions to to the audience members. So those who are listening on other platforms. So not a problem. Again, um, the question I was responding to earlier was a question from Matt, and Matt jumped off, and Matt was asking what my advice would be to someone who is looking to go into leadership, administration, while they're in, and how to stay in. My answer is number one: is this what you really want to do? Meaning, do your research and understand what the work entails. You know, people usually see the 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 compensation and think, oh my God, you know, administrators make so much more money, and not realizing how much time commitment it is. Number two, is in doing your research, also understand what it takes to even get there. You know, it is an additional, you know, at least in New York State, it is an additional certification or graduate degree, and then licensing and things of that nature. And then, you know, having a plan on how to secure that position. You know, there's only but so many schools and but so many administrators. So I know a lot of people who are administrators who've been certified and licensed for a long time, and they're searching for positions and have a hard time trying to find those positions, and often it's because they haven't really been coached on how to. Welcome back, Matt. They haven't been coached on how to secure that position, so they get frustrated and they say, you know what, it's a scam. They post positions, but no one wants to hire, but they already have someone in mind. It is a lot of work. In my case, it took me a number of years, to secure a principalship. I was fortunate enough that I was on the path towards being an assistant principal with my mentor principal. But after that, it took me a number of years to become a principal. And again, I had to understand like networking and making sure that your resume is strong, making sure that you're leading where you are. If you're a teacher, what are you doing to lead as a teacher? If you're a dean, are you just handling the disciplinary issues, or are you doing other things? Are you willing to put the extra time in? Because again, like I said earlier, being an administrator takes a lot of time, winning a job. And it would make sense for you to put yourself in a position of practicing that. Understanding that your day is not, the 5 teaching periods like in New York City, and that's it. Your day is nonstop. Then when you're in there, you have to remember why you do the job. Sadly enough, across the country, I hear this all the time. I've seen this before. I saw this before as a teacher. People become administrators and then they become monsters. And it's true. It's true. Being in that position, especially if you're did it for all the wrong reasons, you lose yourself in that space, because all of a sudden, I'm the assistant principal. How dare you speak to me that way? I'm the principal. And again, I became a teacher because of my passion and my want to move students forward and give back to what I received as a quiet, shy kid who stuttered, who was bullied and had teachers who hedged around me and moved me and literally lifted me up. You know, if somebody would have told me back then I would be a principal or even be a teacher, I would have said, "You're lying," because I was a kid who got so to the point where I was just fighting every day, and because I was fighting every day, I was always in the principal's office because I was always fighting. But again, I had great principals, Dr. Kenneth Crow, Dr. Freeman, and Miss Washington, and I still remember my principals who kept on telling me, "You can do better." So now, as a principal for another day, another 48 hours, I've spent my career really, pouring into students. And if you do not like kids, and you don't like teaching, do not become an administrator, because it just gets intensified. Your passion for students, my passion for students, just intensified, because now it wasn't just the kids in my classroom; it was every kid in the building. And I'm thinking to myself, this kid can't fail, that kid can't fail, this kid can't fail, and that it became my driving force. So and I think by me making that the center, or by you making that the center, you're going to keep your job. And even better yet, it's not even going to be a job anymore. It's going to be your life's work, because everything you do is around the need of a particular child that's under your care. It doesn't matter if it's pre-K all the way to 12. And I've done it. I've been an administrator pre-K through 12. And I can tell you one thing: there's no difference between a kindergartner and a 12th grader. The same thing that makes a 12th grader cry is the same thing that's going to make a kindergartner cry. The same thing that makes a kindergartner happy is the same thing that makes a 12th grader happy. If you're a teacher, if you ever put a sticker in a kid's paper, it doesn't matter how old they are. They're like, "Yo, thank you, I got a sticker on it." It doesn't matter if they're 18 or if they're 5 years old. The same thing. Understanding that and having that passion is what's going to really make the work. To the question, staying there, that's the source of their staying power. So hopefully that answer was helpful. Andrew, welcome Andrew McLear. Thank you for being here again. This is questions Q&A. If you have any questions, teacher side, administration side, whatever it is, I'm here to pour into the community. So, and Matt, I hope that was helpful. And again, you're relegated to just one question. You can ask as many questions as you want, within the span of the next till 9 o'clock. Then I have to go back to being daddy. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Thank you so much, Aislinn. Let me see something here. 1 second. I gotta just. So, those of you who are listening, I do apologize. We're having technical difficulties here. I'm trying to connect, trying to make. Thank you so much, Aislinn. Okay, let me see something. Now I'm hearing myself double. 1 second. All right. So I'm going to ask. First of all, I want to pause everyone. So we're on Zoom, and I'm having a hard time having Zoom audio go out to YouTube. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to try just to take questions and respond to the questions. When you ask your question, I'm going to repeat the question, then answer it. So unfortunately, we won't be able to have a dialogue because those who are watching on other platforms are not going to hear what's being said. And I promise if we do this again, I will figure out why this is not working. But again, as we all know, this is kind of like deja vu to the beginnings of the pandemic when we were teaching, trying to figure out video and audio and lighting and all those things. So I do apologize for that. So I'm going to ask my executive producer to do me a huge favor and type, if at all possible, if you could copy and paste the questions from let me see. Actually, you know what? From LinkedIn. Some questions on LinkedIn that I want to make sure I get to. And then there's some questions that I have here on YouTube I'm going to respond to right now as well. So let me see if I can make this work. And I think I might be able to. Perfect. So I see the questions. Okay, done. I have the questions from YouTube. So let me do this real quick. Again, welcome Andrew and Diane. Welcome. And these two people are here on Zoom. Diane is my Wolfpack sister from the Gray Fellows. You know, an amazing leader, retired leader. Thank you so much for joining and supporting. And again, I don't know if you can ask me any questions that you don't really know the answer to, but I should be asking you questions. But again, thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to now. Oh, Dan, thank you so much. I see the question you posted it for me. But now I have, I'm trying to figure things out. So now I have the questions from LinkedIn on my phone. So first of all, I'm going to answer the question that came up on YouTube. So Solomon asked the question. I just got a position as an MTSS specialist for my school. How can I leverage this into an assistant principal position? Great. Okay, so again, any position you have in your school, whether you are a IEP coordinator, whether you are a dean, anything within the teacher line, first of all, you need to have, depending on what state you're in, you need to have that certification, that licensing for that state, whatever that may be for that space. But now, that's just the beginning. Because you can have the licensing, you can have the certification. However, when you're applying for assistant principal positions, I can tell you this as a principal who's actually interviewed and hired assistant principals, I'm asking of candidates, what have you done that I can leverage when you're here on my team? Leading teams is a big part of it. Being able to coach your colleagues, other teachers is a big part of it. Running programs, creating and initiating programs or running them from beginning to end, super nuts. Like those are things, because again, in leadership, you are leading, So if you get positions that are outside of the classroom that now put you in the teach leader space, then the thing for you to do is to now lead. But not only lead for the show of leading, but lead also from perspective of, gaining some level of outcome that is measurable. And I'll give an example. When I was a dean, which is a position that does not require any kind of certification, is just skill set and an ability to really support school culture and dealing with disciplinary issues. And so I was doing that, and I thought to myself, hey, I want to be an administrator one day. But I also knew that wasn't enough. So I asked my principal at the time, hey, can I be the IEP coordinator? And for those of you who don't know what IEP coordinator is, that's the person who's making sure that IEPs, for students who have IEPs for special needs, that everything from the annual meetings, triennials, that the students are getting the proper supports, that IEPs are being followed. And I took that on because, again, being a dean I knew that was easy. But I knew that was just one small facet of being of a school. So I took on that role, which was tough, even though I was a special ed teacher. But now being the one to make sure that all these things are being done throughout the year, timely, all the annual reviews and things like that nature, it allowed me to now get a taste of what it's like to now juggle two things. Because as a school leader, as a principal, assistant principal, you're juggling 10, 20 things sometimes at the same time. So then I eventually took on being math and science department chair at the same time. I wouldn't recommend this for anyone, but I was doing that, being the dean and also being the IP coordinator. And why was I doing this? Because again, I wanted to really show that I can manage these things. And do understand, I wasn't doing these things by myself. I had a great principal, John Barnes. If anyone knows who John Barnes is, that was my mentor principal. And it's funny because, Aisling, that was your principal when I was assistant principal. He literally had me doing these things. And one day he told me, because I remember I was losing my hair. I was like, this is a lot. I can't do this. He said, are you leveraging your colleagues? Are you talking to them and seeing who can help you with these things? Because as a principal, you're not doing everything by yourself. That's why you have your assistant principals, you have your team leads, but you're still juggling a lot of things because you have to make sure that you're aware what's happening in every space. So to Solomon, again, in Georgia, he says he's currently getting his certification to be an administrator. Awesome. And yeah, if you want to send me your resume, I could look at it and give you some feedback. The thing I'm most looking for is what have you done? And that's one of the admin questions when you're being interviewed. What have you led in your school that's measurable? You can say, before I started doing this, we were here. We were here. But after over time and working on this thing, and these were the benchmarks, we ended up here. Okay, because again, school is not just for show. It's about moving kids forward. It's about making sure that the kids who have gaps are getting what they need. So hopefully that response was helpful to you, Solomon. And again, keep pushing and get that license. And again, send your resume, and I'll give you some feedback. I'm going to go to LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, Pete Fields, another prior student of mine, and actually it's his classmate. To show you how old I am. These are grown adults now. And I remember them being teenagers. And again, his question is, what was your most memorable moment that has happened in school? Aside from when you met me, and you realized that I was your favorite student. Okay, Pete, listen, you were definitely top 100. Top 100 for sure, And Aislinn, you probably top 25, but we're not supposed to have favorites. My most memorable moment, I'll tell you this. Again, the power of leading with heart and just being and putting students first. I remember actually this would have been Aislinn. This would have been your graduation from high school, and I remember you guys graduated in 2013, and Pete as well, all part of the same class, the first graduating class at Bronx Early College Academy in the Bronx, and I remember we had a compact. The schedule for the graduation was compacted. We had speakers, all these things happening. And that was also my last year. I was leaving at that point to actually go to Las Vegas to be an administrator in Vegas. And initially I was supposed to be on the program to speak. Susan asked for that, but it was not enough room in the schedule. And I was like, that's fine. Listen, I know these students. I've known them for 3, 4, 5 years, some of them. So for me, it was fun because at the end of the day, I was promised them I would always be in their lives. You'll always be able to find me and reach me. And the program was going, and I think they called up the valedictorian. And the valedictorian, to honor her, I'm not going to say her name, she went on stage and she sped through her valedictorian speech. And I was like, what's going on here? I think she cut some stuff out, but I heard all the speeches. Then the salutatorian goes up, and he does the same thing, and he's like, okay, so we have extra time here. Mr. Njoku, come to the stage. And those of you who were there, I know you remember, I broke down crying. Not because I was given the mic, I don't know, I love the mic, but it was the fact that my students had, and I realized this was planned not just by those two. It was a number of students in that class, in the senior class, who said, we have to have Mr. Njoku speak. I'm no one special, but that was love that was reciprocated. And I couldn't handle it. I was on stage like a big baby boo-hooing. But also validated why I love this work, and why I've poured the past 17 years of my life into young people, those who are still young people, teenagers now, and those who are adults now. Some of them are married, Mr. Fields, and some of them have children. And again, that was a memory that I will never forget. The day that students, hijacked the graduation just to be able to let me speak. And again, they didn't have to do that, but they did that, and I will forever be grateful for that. So, thank you. Mr. Wicks, thank you so much. You're right. I was over here trying to figure out, Mr. Wicks is also on LinkedIn. I was trying to figure out the tech, and you're right. I'm just going to repeat questions. Again, I'm going to ask if on Zoom you have a question, you can ask your question, and because no one can hear you, you won't be able to go into any back and forth. And yeah, any other questions? Someone is, let me see. All right. Sons of Solomon, welcome, Solomon. I had to mute you, because I was getting the feedback from my voice. Even though I love my voice, I don't want to hear it twice. Ugh. I think that's the everyone who does podcasts, everything, something about us hearing our voices. That's kind of weird. But so if there's any questions in Zoom, please you can put it in the chat, or you can turn your mic on and ask a question. And welcome, Solomon. You know, hopefully my response was helpful to your crusade. So thank you so much. And it is a crusade. It is work getting to become an administrator. And once you get in there, it doesn't get any easier. Trust me. So I'm going to go back looking on YouTube here. So the Restored Tribe has question number 1. From an administrator's point of view, what was a common desire you wish teachers understood and were proactive about in their work? Whew, that's a great question. And I'm going to tell you this. This question, my response is actually a leadership. It's actually a leadership response. Talking to parents. And I get it. When I was in the classroom, even when I was a dean early on, even to this day, picking up that phone to call a parent is always nerve-wracking. I don't know why. It doesn't get better if you are a principal. And I know superintendents who've told me, listen, I still get like butterflies in my stomach when I pick up the phone to call a parent. You know, and for that reason, I can tell you the difference between the most successful teachers and those who struggle. Because parents are our number one colleagues in the work. I understand. Some people might say, listen, the parents in my school, you don't understand. It's treacherous. They don't listen, and they make threats, and you know their child can't do any wrong. But a major part of this work is understanding that even as educators, it doesn't matter if you're a teacher all the way to the chancellor, you are a salesperson. You have to sell parents on the value of what you're doing, and even sell yourself to them. You know, I have parents who've cursed me out, like talked about my mama, like to my face. And of course, you're like, I'm a teacher, I'm a dean, and I stood there and just taking it and been like, wow, what did I do to this person? I had a parent who told my principal when I was a dean that he should not be the principal. I'm going to call the mayor's office. He needs to be fired. He's racist. He's this. He's all these kinds of crazy stuff. But that same parent, at one of the graduations, you know, at the graduation of their child, came to me and was in tears saying, "Thank you so much for what you did. I see that you cared about my child, and if it wasn't for you, my child wouldn't have graduated." And that's not true at all. The child was going to graduate. But my thing was this: I set high standards that a lot of people were not used to, a lot of parents didn't like. But it didn't stop me from calling them, talking to them, building those relationships. So as teachers and as administrators, if you have teachers who are not talking to parents, they're going to make your life miserable. And teachers, your life is going to be miserable too. The worst thing in the world is parent-teacher conferences. A parent shows up that you've never met before, and you're telling them your child is failing. And the parent's looking at you like, I'm finding this out for the first time, you know? Or a parent calls an administrator saying, hey, in your school, this happened to my child in this teacher's classroom. They didn't tell you anything, and even worse yet, they didn't reach out to the parents to tell them anything. So you have to communicate with parents. You know, show me an amazing, successful school, and I'll show you a school that has parents that are involved. Show me a great teacher, classroom environment, and I'll show you a teacher who is constantly in communication with parents. You know, show me an administrator who is beloved by their community. You know, the kids might not like them, but the parents love them because there's communication. And that is the hardest thing. And I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to lie to you. There have been times I've dropped the ball on this because it's hard, you know. And often we will put that to the back burner and deal with other things. But you got to talk to parents. I'm telling you, they might hate you in the beginning, but eventually, if you're consistent, they're going to see the value that you're trying to bring to their child's life, and they're going to see that this is a valuable relationship for their child's success. Number 2, again from Restored Tribe, what are 2 to 3 boundaries that would be helpful in transitioning from teacher to administration? 2 or 3 boundaries that would be helpful. I'm not sure. I'm not clear on what you mean by boundaries. So if you can type that in the chat chat on YouTube, and what you mean by boundaries, and I'll definitely come back to that. Mr. Wapsi, if I'm reading that correctly, on YouTube says in NYC DOE, isn't the hiring of APs and principals largely a closed process? The candidate is identified and then the C30 process begins. How can outside candidates contend? So that's a misnomer. The C30 process is actually in place to make the hiring process open to the school community. Of course, you can't have all 1,000 kids there and every teacher there. But when doing the C30 process, and again, this is for New York City. This is one of the chancellor's regulations for New York City schools around hiring administrators. The C30, you have teacher representation, you have union representation, you have administration representation, you have student representation. So you have all these people who are there as voices for the school, and so they get to meet the candidates that have been selected. I think the difficult part about this that seems like, ooh, this is such a mystery, is the fact that remember this. For example, I'm going to use New York City for example. So there's like 1,000 schools in New York City. So that might be a bad example, but still, it's a large city, so the numbers is in ratio with the population. So they can only ever be 1,000. I think it's like 1,100 principals. There can ever only be 1,100 principals. But there's about 300,000 teachers, I believe. And somebody correct me, 300,000 teachers, and typically the pool of candidates to be a principal, assistant principal, come from that population. So the numbers don't ever quite match. So it's highly competitive. The question is, how do you stand out? What is it that you're doing so people see you and are willing willing to give an opportunity versus you having to just send resumes out there? And again, I've been through, 1, 2, 3, 4 C30s myself as assistant principal, as a principal, 2 C30s as a principal. But also I've sat on several C30s, probably dozens actually over the years, C30s. And I've also been the one who's gone through resumes. And I might get, 40 resumes for AP position, and I have to go through it and see it. But I can't interview all 40 of them, so I got to go through the resumes and ask myself, okay, now, which candidates fit the mission of the school and what we're looking for? So again, it's super competitive. The question is this. If you are applying for a position at a school that you're not at, what is it about your resume that makes you stand out? Okay, I get it. People are going to say, I know somebody's thinking this, but however, most schools already have the candidate already. Maybe, but I know quite a few people who apply for positions at schools they were never familiar with before, but they had such strong resumes and they went there, sat in for the interview and got the job. You have to be a strong candidate. You have to be a strong candidate. A couple of the schools that I became an administrator at, I never heard of the schools. But when the time came and I was approached about the schools or I applied for the schools, my resume was very, very strong. And again, I'm not trying to boast, but one of the things that I know I do on LinkedIn, and I love LinkedIn, I go on LinkedIn, I look at people's resumes, and I look at my resume, and I'm like, and people have told me, man, you've done a lot in 17 years. Yeah, yeah, because if I want to be an administrator, if I want to be the principal, if I want to be whatever, superintendent, whatever the case is, the question is what differentiates you from everybody else. That is what makes you an outsider. When your resume is not strong enough, and then you compete with everyone. But if you build your resume, and going back to the question that Solomon asked actually, about what should you be doing, in the position you're in right now, do more. Do more. Don't kill yourself doing more. Make sure you have good work-life balance. But the thing is, don't do the minimum and think that somebody's going to see you and be like, wait a minute, As a matter of fact, I have a teacher right now in my school. I have 2 teachers in my school right now who do not want to be administrators. They're like, nope, I don't want to do that. But every time the superintendent comes to the building and sees these two people, why don't they want to be administrators? And this is without even seeing their resume. Because whenever the superintendent in the building sees this person, it's like this person's always high energy, always doing something, working on a project, doing this project for the school. And they're like, wow, this person is multitasking, is able to juggle multiple things, and is doing a phenomenal job. And they see how the kids respond to them, how I respond to them, because these are worker bees. And if you want to be in that level where you're being seen, you have to make sure that you're doing more than the bare minimum. And see here. And so, okay, Mr. Wapsie says, yes, but the person the principal or the superintendent wants is selected, and then the project runs. Yes and no. Yes and no. I'm going to be honest with you. Yes and no. Because, again, you have to understand, even within schools, you have superstars in there who are working hard and they're climbing their way within schools. And I'll tell you this. Again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm just being completely honest. My first school that I was at, I was hired in as a dean, as a first year teacher. That principal was telling me, hey, man, you're gonna be an AP one day, And then my second year, I'm thinking like, listen, I'm doing all the great things. The numbers of incidents are down. People show me a lot of love for the work I'm doing. And then a new administrator came in and didn't like me for whatever reason. So from being the golden child to being, I don't really like you. Then I went to my next school, and again, that happened a couple of times until, somebody saw the value of what I was doing and gave it an opportunity. The key is to put yourself in a position to get an opportunity. Yes, there are some schools where the person's already there, but do understand that person's already there. They've been putting work in. They've been putting work in and hoping for an opportunity. So if you're from the outside and you don't know the school community and that person's already there, of course, but at the same time, there are many schools out there that are literally having an open invitation. We're looking for the next leader here. The school I'm at right now, that I'm for another day, another 2 days, I wasn't homegrown in that school. I wasn't. And were there potential other candidates in that building? Yes. But again, my resume and what I've done spoke for itself, and I was given the opportunity as an outsider. So in that case, I was the outsider. The school where I was principal before that one, I was there for a year. Then I was made principal there. And again, I was still an outsider because, a year being in the school, and just so happened that things happened, it didn't work out, and I was given the opportunity. But my thing was always, I made sure to keep on my resume strong, and I did a lot of things. I did fellowships, I did different programs, because I wanted to make sure that my skill set was sharp, and when I got the chance to lead. And again, if you're prepared, trust me, somebody's going to see that. But if you're just saying, hey, I have my certification, and I'm going to apply for a job, and all I've been doing is, and again, please don't take this the wrong way, because again, as teachers, what we do in the classroom is crazy, But when you're looking to go into administration, what makes you stand out from the other teachers who want the same thing? That's all I'm saying. What makes you stand out? And people might not agree with that. I'm sure you've all heard, people say like, if you want to be this, you can't just clock out at 3 o'clock and go home. You gotta stay. I don't believe all that, but I do believe you can effectively be a contributor to your school community in a way that people see, and then people definitely gravitate to. Just look in the chat over here. Any other questions? Solomon, so you can attach your resume in LinkedIn, and my email is also is also public on LinkedIn, and it's literally my name, Uche Njoku, at thesneakerprinciple.com. So definitely do that. Good thing I didn't miss that. And then Restored Tribe, the number 2 question again was looking back on your transition from teacher to administration. Okay, so there was a typo. What were the 2 to 3 personal boundaries, as in work-life balance, self-care, do you wish you better established? Whew. Okay, that is 100% clear. 100% clear. So so I'm going to do a quick time check. Right now we have roughly about 2 minutes. So I'm going to try to make this as short as possible because I want to respect time. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we don't have 2 minutes. We have about 9 minutes. So so the personal boundaries. I had no work-life balance, and self-care. Self-care. What's self-care? Again, I have a weakness here. Aislinn can because attest to the 325-pound Mr. Njoku, you know, and that was not because I was I wanted to be 325 pounds. It was just the fact that my whole life was work, you know. Again, I came into an era where I was told, you know, and a lot of the things that I said, but remember earlier I did say about work-life balance, you know, and thank you for asking the question again, so I can be clear about that. I was the one who would get to school, because as soon as I got the keys to the building, when I got to Becca, to Bronx Early College Academy, where Aislinn graduated from, when I got there, I was already an admin intern. I did the Summer Principals Academy at Teachers College at Columbia University. So that year, I was a admin intern. I had the keys to the building, and because I had the keys to the building, I was the first one in that building. I would walk into that building sometimes 5:30 in the morning, sometimes 5 o'clock, because I was like, listen, I got work to do, and I would leave so late that all the custodians in the building, we were like buddies. Like it was like I knew everybody, I knew their families. Like the school building was like where I lived. My apartment is where I went to sleep, and I'll get up and do it every single day. And I became super obsessed with the school. Everything. I'll be down the hallway. If there was a bubblegum wrapper on the floor, I'm picking it up. You know, students would catch me in the hallway sweeping. I'll go in the classrooms. After school, I walk into a class. If it was a mess, I'm in there helping the custodians clean that classroom. And I'm telling the teacher next day, how dare you leave this classroom dirty? Because you know that the custodian was here and he has 3 kids and clean your classroom, and you could, like, that was my level of obsession. And there was no boundaries for me. Like, you know, I was so focused on getting the work, getting to where I wanted to be, you know, career-wise. But the problem with that is that I didn't realize it was taking a toll on my health. Because I was not taking care of myself, the boundaries didn't exist. So I wasn't disciplined in other spaces. I was disciplined at work. The work was important. I was disciplined there. But then when it came to like my eating habits, you know, I could go I was 325 pounds, but I would go the whole entire day and not eat. But I was being vigilant, making sure that my babies, my students, my staff was good. But then on my way home, sometimes at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, I'll stop by at McDonald's. And I'm going to share with you my typical, it's been a long day, I'm tired meal. I get to McDonald's. Can I get 2 double quarter pounders with cheese? Can I get 6 cheeseburgers? Can I get the 20-piece chicken McNuggets? You know, and a large fries, 2 apple pies, and of course I gotta be healthy. You know, Diet Coke. And the 6 cheeseburgers is what I was eating as I was driving home. Because I was so tired, so hungry, I was just consuming calories. And then I'll get home and I'll knock out. That was easily 10,000 calories, if not more. And I would do that maybe every other day. You know, or living in New York City in the Bronx, literally down, I lived on a 5th floor walk up. Across the street was a Chinese restaurant. That was the other spot. So it was McDonald's or Chinese food. And that was me every day, you know. And I came to New York City schools, 225, 230. And before one day I knew it, I was 325, you know. But still, I was going hard. It wasn't until a doctor told me, hey, are you trying to kill yourself? My doctor told me this. Are you trying to kill yourself? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, first of all, your blood pressure is so high right now that I can't even, first of all, I can't let you leave, but you're a big guy, so you might run me over, but you might have to sign some paperwork saying that I have no liability on, because you walking out. And I was like, what is he talking about? But I was literally killing myself. I was borderline diabetic, all these different things. And it's not the same for everyone. For me, it was my health. For some people, it's their relationships. I know a lot of people who've gotten divorced and lost family members and all kinds of stuff because the job became so important. And I think it's very important that if you're in the work, in the space of work of human beings and children, and you want them to have a good life, are you having a good life? Are you living your best life? Because you're a hypocrite if you're telling kids, take care of yourself, be healthy, eat right, get good sleep, and you're not doing the same thing. And I'll say this, unapologetically. I've written about this. It got to the point for me where I had to have gastric bypass surgery. My situation was so bad. The doctor was like, this could save your life. And that's why I get to be here right now. I'm 215 right now, a little heavier than I want to be, but that's why I get to be here right now. But at the same time, we all know some educator, if you've been in this game long enough, who's gotten sick, who've had a heart attack, all kinds of stuff like that, because again, you're not being healthy and having that work-life balance. And again, we're not talking about and work-life balance looks like a lot of things, Are you being mindful? Are you creating space for yourself to just breathe during the day? Are you getting enough rest? Are you even having fun? Are you going out in nature? Are you even laughing at work? Are you in the right school environment? That's one of the things you said about the transition from teacher to administration. Are you in a space where the administration respects you enough to say, hey, go home? Or do they make you feel guilty if you leave, at a certain time? Even though you're putting a lot of work in and you're doing great things for students. These are the things, these are the boundaries. So for me, I'm going to point them I got to the point in my career where I was like, number one, when it's time to go, it's time to go. And it's still hard. It's still hard because I'm addicted to I got to get this stuff done. But sometimes it's like, okay, I got to go. Sometimes as a principal, I will, and I did this, I decided to do this as a dean. I was bad at it. As an AP, I got better at it. Shutting my door, turning the lights off, and telling this principal so-and-so, I am not, I need a 15. And I'll sit in my office in that dark 15 and just breathe. Sometimes I take a nap, rejuvenate so I can keep moving forward. You got to find what it is for you that brings you peace and joy so you can do the work and do it really, really well, And I'm going to say this, Diane, I'm looking at you right now, and listen, we've had our conversations. I'm so happy to see you right now because I remember when I first told Diane, this was 2019, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Because I was abusing myself. Even though I lost the weight, I was doing better, I was still mentally abusing myself because I didn't know how to tell people, hey, I got to draw this line. And I'm still learning. And a lot of people ask me, after 17 years, you're just going to walk away? You're just going to walk away from this? What about the kids? But I had to be willing to say, what about my kids? I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. 17 years. Listen, I'm proud of Aislinn. She was my student. We're talking about middle school, all the way to high school, and see her graduate. Pete was one of the students in her class too, who is a phenomenal man. I look at his Instagram. I'm like, this is a man, married man, and family man. I'm like, what? But you were a kid 2 hours ago, But again, I say all of this because I had to give myself grace to say, you know what? It's time for me to go do something different. I'm far from retirement age. It's what people are like, wait a minute, you're just gonna walk away, leave all that money on the table? Yeah, I am. Because at the end of the day, my kids are not gonna remember the money I left on the table. They're gonna remember the man I was. My wife is not gonna remember the money that I left on the table. She's gonna remember the man I was. And again, Restored Tribe, thank you for that question because it's so important. And again, to figure that out for yourself. That's why when the question was asked about early on about becoming an administrator, what are the things you should do? And first thing I said was, figure out, is this what you really want to do? Do your homework. Because it's all consuming. It's all consuming, and then it's also guilt wrapped. Because people are going to make you feel guilty because you want to move differently. You want to do this work in a different way. You want to take care of yourself while you're taking care of others as well. And that is the challenge. And Restore Tribe says, truly appreciate your transparency. I'm certain this planted a seed for many. And thank you so much, because again, yeah, this is I love the work. And don't get me wrong, I'm not quitting, being an educator. It's just that I'm going to go be an educator on a different stage, that I can control, because I've done 17 years, and I don't regret anything I've done. But again, we all have to keep moving forward. And I'm going to say this, and people are mad at me for saying this: being an administrator is not the end all be all of everything. There's so much more. There's so much more out there. Educating children, educating teachers, educating administrators, educating the community. Let's make this different. I'm going to do one more thing before I jump off. It's already 9:02, so if you just bear with me. And this is you guys got me so hyped here. A question that came up here, and it's a direct message from Andrew McLear. Thank you for this question. I'm going to read this out loud. It says here, at least 19 states passed laws regulating how teachers talk about race and African American studies in the classroom. A vocal number of concerned parents are applying organized pressure to school boards to ensure compliance. The pressure can include physical, psychological, and legal threats. Some educators have already stepped down. What recommendations would you offer current and aspiring educators and leaders who have to navigate these toxic spaces? So this is gonna be the last question, and this is a very powerful question. Stages. I'm very aware of this. I've seen this, and I don't know what I would do if in New York City they said you can't talk about race and African American history and Latino studies and and LGBTQ plus, like all those spaces, and because it has to be this way. I don't know what I would do. Actually, I know what I would do. I would leave New York State and go work somewhere else. You said 19 states? Okay, what about the other, let me do my math right, 31 states. Yeah, 31 states, What about the other 31 states? But not only that, one thing I've learned about education is this. The classroom is not the only stage. The school building is not the only stage. I've learned more about American history and critical race theory from YouTube. Teachers, licensed teachers who are creating content, So just because you can't do it in the classroom doesn't mean that you can't create content that's available for the world to see. One thing I'm going to say about this, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to remove administration off the table. I'm going to move those titles off the tables. Let's talk about just being an educator. Let's talk about an educator. If you love this work and you have a purpose behind it, then those states and those laws will not stop you. You can still go, if you live in that state and you're like, this is where I am, then go into school and be the best teacher and make sure your students can read, write, think critically within the realm of the content that's being given. If you do it the right way, those kids are going to be hungry for more, and they will seek out that other information without you having to prompt them. But you have kids in the classroom and you're just trying to get them through the basic minimum for them to just move on to be pushed to the next grade. Yeah. Those 19 states are going to win. At John Jay School for Law, 2 more days, one of the schools with the best missions that I've ever worked at. Our job is to create critical thinkers, analytical writers, and passionate speakers. John Jay School for Law, Park Slope, Brooklyn. Those 3 things. And again, that is my mission, my own personal mission as well. My children will be critical thinkers, not just give them information. Why is this right or wrong? What do you think about this? What evidence do you have to support this thing that you're saying? Then are you able to write it? Let's not lie to ourselves. We have 12th graders graduating from high school who can't write, who can't truly write. So if you're in one of those states, become a great writing teacher, a great math teacher, build thinkers, and trust me, those laws will not stop a damn thing. Those kids will seek out real knowledge, you know. And I've seen kids in those states protest. Let's not forget that in those states, kids are protesting. I'm sorry, there's this thing called the internet. I'm sorry, you can't stop the internet. This is not, you know, like a Soviet bloc nation or countries where you can just turn things off. It's there, but it's up to us to make sure that we're pushing that kind of content. I think that's it. You know, this is stressful. Thank you for those of you for bearing with me. I know you couldn't hear Zoom, but hopefully I did a good enough job repeating the questions and reading the questions out. And I said that was the last thing, but I gotta give one shout out. I see Jamal George. He says here, proud of your contributions, brother. Jamal was one of my classmates at Columbia. Again, a great leader as well. And one last thing. Please know this. There are phenomenal school leaders out there. If you have a school leader who's just not cutting the mustard, you know, I deeply apologize, because not all of us are trained the same way. You know, I'm part of a fellowship of principals for the Great Fellows. We were part of the first cohort. Diane was my sister in arms with that. 19 principals who spent a year just working on being mindful, just working on just you know, being able to listen to people, look into their hearts. People are like, oh my God, these principals, this is too touchy-feely. What are they doing? But it's not the work that we try to do with our kids or our students. Listen to them, see into their hearts. Why can't we do that with our teachers? Why can't we do that with each other? You know. So the thing is this: I'm telling you, I could name at least 19 from my cohort. Then what? It's about pushing like almost 80 now. Principals, at least in New York City, who this is how we move. You know, and there are principals around the country who are doing the same thing. You know, and I hope that administrators, system-wide, are willing to really create that space for that to be the case. Because again, teachers deserve school leaders who will build them and not just tear them down. And with that being said, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It is 9:09. I got to go be daddy. Thank you so much. And this was fun. Maybe do it again sometime. Okay. All right, y'all. I love everyone. Be well. And till next time.
And now he's been promoted. His job, principal.